Gina Duvernay, and I'm the Adult Services Manager for Gwinnett County Public Library. It's good to see some familiar faces and some not so familiar faces, so thank you for coming this evening. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and read the bios for our guests tonight. So we have our lovely moderator here, Dr. Joy Harden Bradford, who is a licensed psychologist, speaker, founder, and CEO of Therapy for Black Girls, and the host of its wildly popular mental health podcast. She's also the author of Sisterhood Heals, The Transformative Power of Healing Community. Her work focuses on making mental health topics more relevant and accessible for Black women, and she specializes in creating spaces for them to have fuller and healthier relationships with themselves and others. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you for being here tonight. And for the author that we are all here for is best-selling author Omar Tyree. He is the winner of the 2001 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work of Fiction and the 2006 Phyllis Wheatley Literary Award for Body of Work in Urban Fiction. He has published more than 20 books featuring African American people and culture, including 5 New York best-selling novels. Omar is a popular national speaker and a strong advocate of urban literacy. Born and raised in Philadelphia, Omar now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Very excited to chat with you. So you heard Gina say, I am a psychologist. I am, however, not the psychologist that inspired the character from this book. I just want to go on record as saying that. But Mr. Tyree, it is such a pleasure to be in conversation with you tonight. So when I got the invitation to come and moderate this conversation, I was like, Fly Girl? How many people have already read Fly Girl, right? I feel like I read that when I was like, should not. I probably wasn't even old enough to be reading Fly Girl, but it is such an honor to be with you tonight. So many books later. Yeah, so Control. So how many people have read Control? Did anybody get early copies? Okay.
Okay, so we got 2 people, 3 people.
So we're not going to spoil anything, I promise. Yeah. You definitely want to dig in. And there are copies, of course, available in the back for buying and signing afterwards. But it is quite a departure from Fly Girl and many of the other things that you
Well, you know, every book was different, you know, so people would always say, this is different. It's a new book. This is different. It's a new book. This is different. This is a new book. You know, but I want to remind everybody, I have a degree in journalism. So I write topics, not the same characters over and over again. So I kept coming back to Fly Girl because you guys loved her so much, but she grew up. And when she grew up, the story changed because she changed. So I had some people that thought I was going to go back to her being a teenager. And I'm like, nah, she grows up like real people do, you know, and I write faction. So I write books that are based on the facts. I don't write creative stuff and that's why people appreciate the content because it's real. And I want to be as real as possible, and I always want to deal with different topics. So yeah, Control was the new topic. I'm an older guy now. I got the gray hairs popping in and stuff. And when I wrote Fly Girl, I was a kid. I was like the baby compared to all the other writers. So now that I'm older, you know, I understand there's some things that you don't control no matter how old you are, no matter how powerful you are, and that the things can stress you out. So you got to learn to just let it go and let God be in control, or control what you can and then let the rest of it, because it can really stress you out. And so that's what I did with that book. We got a lot of people that got control issues that are getting really stressed out. Like Donald Trump right now is really trying to control the presidency, and he's not going to do it, but he keeps trying. So he's putting a lot of pressure on himself right now, you know, but that's what we're talking about. People like that want to control things. That's an American way right now, because we all think we can be rich and powerful and everything we want to be, but that's not the reality. You got to negotiate what other people want. And I don't know how many people want Donald Trump to be back in office. I don't know what he's doing, but that's what people that want control do. It makes sense to them when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. And that's what we have in there, based in Atlanta, because there's a whole lot of people coming to Atlanta like they coming to America, and they want all these ideas. And it's like you get here and it's like, oh, and everybody else want these ideas too. Everybody's not going to get it. You know, it's like playing musical chairs when we were kids. They're going to keep moving the chairs, and somebody's going to fall on that rump and not have a chair. And that's what it is. And when you do that, how pissed off are you? You know, how are you able to regather yourself? And that book is, you know, so this kind of book, like you already know.
I read it.
I can't talk about it too much, but I'm
Yeah.
excited.
But it is, so even though you write about different topics for each of your books, this is also a departure in that it is a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
So talk to me about like writing that type of work when we are more familiar with the other kinds of things you've written.
I got an A in psychology. I went to the University of Pittsburgh before I transferred to Howard because I wanted to play football. So I'm a typical Philadelphian crazy sports dude that played sports my whole life, football. So I went to Pitt, and of course I got radical. You know, if you ever seen Spike Lee's School Days, Lawrence Fishburne was like the most radical dude. I was one of them dudes in college. So I really got off on that. Like, that was a great, because I was that dude. So I had to leave Pittsburgh because I could no longer think about my studies because I was thinking about white, black, racial issues so much. And so that was my first book. But yeah, with that whole idea of a psychological thriller, I've always been into psychological, mental stuff. And so a lot of people don't give me credit for that, but now people are reading Fly Girl again as older readers, and they're like, wow, you had a lot of stuff in it. And I'm like, yeah, when you were young, you weren't paying attention to all that. You just wanted the sex scenes, but it's way more than sex scenes. So when you read it now as an adult, you're like, wow, Omar dealt with the family dynamic, the economic dynamic, the racial dynamic. He had Afrocentric education. He had the drug dealer thing. Everything is in there that we went through in the 80s. It was a book on materialism. So every book I put out, I'm right on point with a topic, not just the girl was in my head and she wanted this. You know, you get some authors that say that. That's cool. That's their process. I always start with a topic and then create the characters that fit that topic. So I grew up in the 80s in Philadelphia, and we had plenty of fly girls that would have you spending all kind of money going to, you know, down to, we had New Jersey. You would go down there to get Gucci bags and Gucci shoes and all that kind of stuff, paying all kind of money. And then guys started selling drugs. So I already knew the psychological angle of humans. Now we're really going into it with control. That's like the Stephen King level thing. And so that's why I'm so excited, because it's really going to, you know, get some people talking. So we got a whole book club over there. And I'm telling all the book clubs, if you choose to read Control, you get a guaranteed podcast or a Zoom call, because I can't wait to talk about it with people that read it all. Because if you don't read it all, I can't. I got to tap dance because there's so much stuff in it that you're like, whoa, 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 you know, and I can't wait to get that response. So I can't, you know, so right now we're going to touch and go, and I can't wait for everybody to read it. Yeah.
So you've touched already a little bit on why control was the theme. Can you say more about like why it felt important to tackle the subject of control?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to do. The more success you have, the more you want control. Tyler Perry is a perfect example. He controls everything. You look at it, directed by Tyler Perry, written by Tyler Perry, produced by Tyler Perry, financed by Tyler Perry, and when you went to the theaters, featuring Tyler Perry, yeah, it's like, so he's like totally, now he got like 20 television shows. He done bought BET and whatnot. So yeah, he's showing you, you know, and then he's still mad at that first movie that he didn't get a chance to direct, because Hollywood at that time was like, we don't know is this going to be successful or not. So he's still mad that he didn't get a chance to direct Diary of a Mad Black. And he was a mad black man with that movie, but it was successful. And then when it's successful, he's like, now I can go ahead. And he had people that already supported him for the stage plays. He had money people too. So he was in a different position from us authors. We typically don't have money people that back us the way Tyler Perry did, because when you do stage plays, they got to promote, the advertise and marketing. So they always have a lump sum of a promoter. Yeah, they got people with money, and then they making money night on end. People going three days in a row. They got a day show and a night show. So he's used to matriculating the capital, where with books is different. We got booksellers, and it's just us and the publisher. So he was set up in a position where he could gain control, and now he's in it. But if he wasn't able to get it, he could end up being a frustrated guy like I have in the book. We got a screenplay writer, which is on my side of it. When you're a writer, a lot of us, we don't dictate the terms because we don't have the capital the way Tyler Perry did. And so when you can't dictate the terms and they're telling you they're going to change this and do that, and you know, a female came in today with a book called Leslie, which is about, you know, a chocolate girl in New Orleans. In fact, she had a whole chocolate crew that was her roommates. I took the book out to Hollywood with the whole angle of the dark-skinned woman is still getting it. We still got to deal with that. Hollywood said, hey, we can have Rihanna in it because she's from the Caribbean, and then 3 other light-skinned girls. I said, yo, you totally missed the point on this book. And that's what they do when you're not in control of the product. And so it becomes this battle thing back and forth of who gets to control the product. And I'm like, I wrote the product. I understand it more than anyone. And then they say, but you're not a filmmaker. We're filmmakers. That's cool, but I understand the story. So you still have to bring me in. And a lot of times they don't want the book writer there because we have too much control. The audience already likes us. They already know the content. Then you go to the movie wanting to see what you read, and they start saying stuff, well, we wanted to change that. We wanted to take this out. We wanted to combine them. Then you ask me, how come you let them do that? Now I got to defend that. And I'm a Philadelphian, so I'm like, no, dude, I'm not doing that. If you're not going to be what I want it to be, you're not going to put me in front of an audience, and I'm making all these excuses for you when I didn't agree with that in the first place. So that becomes a hard situation for a whole lot of writers. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always interesting to me when men write strong women characters, because either you do it really well or you completely miss the boat. I see a lot of people recognize that. So talk to me about like feedback you've gotten, because a lot of your stories actually feature strong Black women characters. So talk to me about like the process of that and the feedback you've gotten from readers.
Well, first off, I had a very strong Black mom, and she was the oldest of 8, which included 4 younger brothers. So she had a very strong personality. She was the boss. A lot of people use that term, but my mom was the boss. And when she was around me, she never let anybody take my confidence. He can do that, he can do this. She was that kind of woman. So I always had confidence with my mom. So I tended, as they say, you marry your mom. So now you going after girls that have self-confidence and power. So I never was really attracted to, people that were wishy-washy and not. So when I write characters, that came out, I was in Richmond. And we had a great show in Richmond. And the woman who was the host like you, she said, thinking about your characters, you always write strong, dominant characters. And I thought about it. And I said, yeah, I don't really like wishy-washy people. You know what I mean? Like, make your choice, make your decision, go with your decision. So when she said that, though, I started thinking like, hey, maybe I could write a wishy-washy character because I haven't really done that. But with females, yeah, I've been around a whole lot. And it's funny because people would say stuff like, how can you write a woman? Well, I've been around women my whole life. You know what I mean? I got aunts, I got sisters, you got girls you went to school with, you got girlfriends, I'm like, when have we not been around women? You know what I mean? So I'm like, no, you just got to pay attention. And so as a writer, I'm paying attention to everything, not just the guys, but the girls too. And then, women read more than guys, so I've actually written more masculine books, but Fly Girl trumps everything. So you guys keep saying, oh, you write good. I've written a whole lot. Even in the book, Fly Girl, you got masculine characters who people love. That Victor Henson dude is as dominating as she is. In fact, he put her to school, right? If you remember that book, he schooled her, and that's what happens when you a dominant woman and you still looking for a guy. You're going to end up running to a guy that you can't handle, and that's what she did. But I didn't get credit for that because it's immediately like, well, you're a guy, so of course you're supposed to know that. But yeah, all the characters were well developed, and I've written a lot of characters now to the point where I run out of names. So now I'm like, give me some good names because, I done wrote like 300 characters. So now the name is like, I use that one, I use that one, I use that one, I use that one. So now I got to keep coming up with names that I didn't use yet. Yeah, but yeah, writing female characters, you're around them all the time. It's just you have to pay attention. And so as a writer, you have to get it right. That's what we do. We pay attention to things that happen, people, how they talk, the whole thing, and then we get it right. So yeah, that's all that is there, getting it right of women that I've been around all my life. Mm-hmm.
So you chose control as the topic for this book. I'm curious how you have had to contend with your own control issues as an author and with this topic in particular.
Yeah, they all have control issues. And then with you being a psychologist, I said, this is really, so I'm really smiling because the book is about a psychologist who is, has 6 clients that are all out of control, and that's her specialty. So I saw your now, oh man, I got a psychologist. We're going to have good fun there, because you know the trade. You know, so now you sitting down, it's like voyeurism for all the readers because you're sitting in on interviews where they're in it, and now you're thinking the thing same way, like, yeah, she's crazy. Wow, so now you get a chance to be a psychologist because that's the way the book is set up, where each person's coming in and sitting down and they going through stuff. Now you get a chance to judge them and say, what the heck are you doing? Just like she does. And then since she's a character too, you get to also do that with her. So this book was a lot of fun, man. I can't wait for people to read it because they're going to have a whole lot of stuff they want to ask me that I can't talk about yet. Because I don't want to mess up, you know, all the emotions they're going to have with all the twists and turns. Because when somebody's out of control, they out of control. You have no idea what they're going to do. And you're like, I can't control them, you know. So, yeah, this is fun.
So talk to me about the process, because it's always interesting to me reading a book as a psychologist, reading a book that features a psychologist, because it's like, oh, are they going to get it right? They're going to have us looking crazy in the book. And so was there any consultation with like actual mental health professionals? Like, what was the process of writing this character?
Well, we've all had consult. I tell people by the time you get 30, you done met everybody. You done met doctors, lawyers, psychologists, you know what I mean? So, because you go in there and you might have marriage counseling, you have my family counseling, and then you got people that's always preaching to you, think they know better than you. So you've been around, then you watch this. Think about how many movies we watched with all these different professions. Like I love movies. So every movie has all these, imagine if you could retain all the information that you heard, you know, I've been around, but most of it, you see it in the movie and you blow it off. I'm not a psychologist, I don't know. All that doctor stuff, you know what I mean? We see all that real estate stuff, all that killing in the army stuff, all that, you blow it off because it's a movie. But if you could retain all the stuff by the time you get 30, and my family loved movies. So I would go to the triple features and be in there for 6 hours. And then when I was a teenager, I started doing movie marathons where you pick one movie and then synchronize the times and you stealing, right? You're supposed to pay. I'm not paying for this movie. I'm just walking there. So I'd get in there for 8 hours watching movies, and a lot of people didn't have that type of attention span. They didn't like stories like that. I loved it. So just to think about me with all that different all them different professions, all that different information, if you can retain all that, you are a certified genius. But we don't. We don't retain all that stuff. But in this book here, it's like, yeah, imagine if a person could retain a lot of the stuff that they hear and they're around. So yeah, that's what that is. Like with each person, they're telling you stuff, then you only gonna memorize or hear what you need or what you want at that time. And then over time, you may lose it because other stuff becomes more important, and then you move it out for the new stuff, and you move it out for the new stuff. But we've met a whole lot of people by the time we're 30. And a lot of us in here more than 30. You know, I'm 55 now. So yeah, it's a whole lot of regular conversations that I've had without research. And with me, once I became a writer, funny thing happened when you start talking about stories, right? I jump in a cab and I say I'm a writer. Oh, I've always wanted to write a book about. So everybody wants to tell me about every time I go somewhere. Oh, you're a writer? Oh, well, you understand. Let me tell you this. Yeah, I always want. And so I get that all the time. In fact, I consulted 2 people before I came over here. So I'm always getting the stories all the time. So people are giving me information all the time. So now if I can retain that, I'm like, yeah, I met this girl that talked about this, and this guy talked about this, and this guy talked, because they always want to talk to a storyteller because they know that I understand and get it, you know what I mean? And they want to get it out of themselves. So I'm always gigantic ears with all the storytellers. So yeah, it's a whole lot of information that I got, you know, that I can put in every character because I know a lot of them. And I've been down here to Atlanta plenty of times. Yeah, plenty of times. So I know what Atlanta's doing right now.
So you mentioned you've written so many characters that you've run out of names, and I feel like you do write characters that like stay with you like long after the book is gone. What is the secret to writing characters that really stick with us?
Which character are you talking about?
Not any in particular in this book, but all throughout your book.
Oh, all of them. You're just talking about all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking she don't want to go in detail now. She ain't talking about them characters. But, you know, like I said earlier, I got an A in psychology. I forgot about that point. And when I did that at Pittsburgh, all the black students, that's a predominantly white school, what we call PWIs now. When I got that A, I was a freshman, first year. And they were like, man, nobody black ever got an A in psychology. But now I know somebody did, but it was like, I was like a hero, but I was really into psychology because if you're watching stories, why people do things is a dominant situation. And then sociology, I got an A in that too, which is the societies that people live in. So I could have went into your trade and would have been quite great as a psych guy automatically. But in my books, that's what I've actually been doing with my books. Fly Girl was psychology of a materialistic girl running fast and what she's going to run into in a type of city like Philadelphia in the materialistic 1980s. That's a psychological piece. Then I did a whole breakdown of Washington, D.C. in a book called Capital City when they called it the murder capital. Because I lived there and drug dealers in D.C. got that serious. If I catch you selling drugs on my corner, you're going to be in the back of the car with a hole in your head. And they were not playing in D.C. But if you wasn't selling drugs, they didn't bother you. So everybody was calling the kids that went to Howard like, do I need to get you out of there? It's murder. And the Howard kids like, Mom, if you're not selling drugs, these DC people ain't thinking about you. But if you're selling drugs, you better have some hitmen because they going to be after you. And that's what was going on. So I understood the psychology of the money in DC. They wanted their money bad. Philadelphia is a blue collar town. But in D.C., when you had Marion Barry, he was giving everybody government jobs and everybody getting money. And so they started getting so much money, they got greedy. And so when the drugs came out, nobody wanted to be humbly poor in D.C. They wanted that money. And so it got treacherous in D.C. So I wrote about that, but that's psychology. Why are they selling drugs on this level in D.C.? So all the books I've written, Leslie, I wrote a book about dark-skinned girl and poverty in New Orleans before Hurricane Katrina. And I did a event right here in Atlanta, and sisters were in the, the Deltas and the AKAs, and they asked me, Omar, why are you still writing about light and dark issues and poverty? I said, well, you guys have come out of your STEAM universities, you got money now and all that, but we still have poverty and we still have color issues. Now these kids are calling it colorism. That's the new thing. I'm like, oh, that ain't called. It's the same thing that's been going on forever. Now I got light and dark skinned people in my family, so people start assuming you want a light skinned guy. My grandmothers, both my grandmothers dark skinned. I'm like, wait, you don't know. Like we got all these different colors, so I understand it's another psychological thing. And in New Orleans, we found out people were still poor when Hurricane Katrina hit. And they walking across the bridge with no buses, no cars. I'm like, are you kidding me? We in year 2006 and black people walking across the bridge. Did you see that? Like, are you kidding me? But you asking me why I'm still writing about poverty? So it's a psychological thing. Everything I write has psycho in it. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own psychosis, including these 6 characters, which she's not going into. But every last one of those characters has a psychosis of control. And that's what my main character focuses on. And she has that psychosis too, because she's from Camden, New Jersey, which is right next to Philadelphia. So they got like a chip on their shoulder because Philadelphia dominates that city, right? Because they get our radio, our television, our sports. So they're like, what do you have? So all they have is, I'm from Camden. I'm going to show I'm from Camden. And we like, you want to be from Philly. You're right across the bridge, So Camden people, so I wanted to put that in there because now she got an axe to grind as a Camden woman, which makes her want to control her narrative more. I'm from Camden. You know what I mean? She got something. So people can do that because now it's like, well, I'm going to let you know that Camden ain't some little small place next to Philadelphia. We got personality. We got stuff too. So I wanted to create that as well because, again, that's psychology. We all have defense mechanisms that kick in when we want to defend some part of our life. All of us do, and we can't get around it. So I love this book because it's getting me back into what I really do. I break down humans. And that with the Fly Girl you love, I broke it down, and that's why you love it. Yeah.
So typically when I'm working with clients that have control issues, usually there is fear. That is why they are scrambling for control. Can you say a little bit about what the fear is maybe underlying for some of these characters in this book?
Okay. Well, I have a friend that says that, some people react out of fear. Fear of losing something or fear that they can't gain something. So they get stressed, right? And that's what happens with people with control. You want to make sure it's perfect, right? So imagine a cook in the kitchen that wants to make sure that you cook they're going to drive you nuts, right? Because, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, make sure to do this, don't do that, what are you doing? And you're like, you know what, girl, you cook that food because you about to lose your mind. So when you get around controllers like that, it's just stressful. And I could be the same way. Did you do this? Did you call them? Did the people there? This and that? And so when you stress out like that, it's you trying to control the whole awareness of it, or the success of the event, or whatever it is. So a lot of event coordinators, oh my goodness, wedding coordinators, anybody that has to control a lot of people, oh my good. Principals at schools. Are you kidding me? Even that movie, The Lion King, right? Makuma Matata, whatever that was, like, you can't control it, so you just bounce around and do. Now, I won't go to that point, but it was a song, right, that came out, I think his name, Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy, woo-hoo-hoo. Y'all remember that song? I hated that song. Don't worry, be happy. What you talking about, man? You know what I mean? Like, don't worry, be happy. I was like one of them Chuck D dudes from Public Enemy. Fight the power, you know what I mean? So I was, what do you mean don't, and so that kind of thing, he's telling you, you can't control it, let it go. Other people say, I'm gonna give it up to God, so you gotta figure out a way, you know what I mean? So yeah, with this thing here, man, it's why I'm just excited, for people to read it. But you being a psychologist, you already know, it's like, I love it, man. I can't wait for folks to read that book.
Likewise. So you have had such a long career. Can you talk about, like, what do you think what contributes to the longevity of your career?
When did I say it again?
You've had such a long career.
Okay,
and
a
written
long
so
career.
many books. Yeah, what has
Okay.
contributed to your longevity as an author?
The longevity. I'm still passionate about writing. I'm still passionate about storytelling. I went away from writing books because I wanted to do film. And, when it got to the point where they wanted you to write your own screenplays, I said, all right, let me write my own screenplays. And so I was writing screenplays. I got about 12 screenplays, including Fly Girl, because they never wrote a screenplay. You know what I mean? So I was like, let me write it, because I understand how to write. I know understand all the characters. And so I did time doing that, but I couldn't control the money. So it doesn't matter what you did. You wrote the screenplay. No, we want our old guys to write it. So no matter what I did, it was like I was out of. So it was really irritating me. You know what I mean? I was like, but after a while, it's like, what are you gonna do, man? They're not letting you in. You're not writing anymore. And then I had a friend that was like, Omar, now you're working on other people's books. You're consulting people. Do you have any book ideas of your own? And I didn't. I had all film ideas, right? And so, in fact, this right here is a film. Everything I write now with film ideas, but I don't control film, so I'm gonna put them out as books. But that's definitely control as a film, automatically. So I got characters that I already know, actors that I already would want to put in it, but again, you don't control them. So I can go to Gabrielle Union, I can go to Taraji P. Henson, I can go to, Amari Hardwick, but if they don't want to be in the film and I ain't got the money to put them in the film, now it's out of my control, so now I'm frustrated that I can't, you know what I mean? So that's where, so now, okay, I'm going to put that out, you can enjoy it, I have to get back into the love of you enjoying the content and let it go on the film side. So now I'm excited for us to enjoy the content and everyone to know that Omar should be in movies, Omar, right? Yeah. But if we can enjoy it as a book, then I'll be happy with that again. So I had to learn to get back to my happiness and peace by writing books again, where I can control the characters, in it, which I did a heck of a job. Hollywood is just, they want to control everything, which again, we can do that too. If you think about the successful, people who are in Hollywood, but even black people, they control. Shonda Rhimes is in control. Ava DuVernay is in control. Spike Lee, I don't have to say it. You know what I mean? You already know. So the individuals, John Singleton was nominated for an Oscar at 24. After that, he was in control. So a lot of these guys that are successful, they are used to that control. So now if you try to take that out of their hands, they're going to spaz out the way Kanye West does with everything. Kanye West wants to control everything. And he couldn't control his mouth, so he lost $300 million. And we sitting there like, Kanye, zip it, cut it, stop it, cut it out. And he kept talking and talking. And what did he say? They can't control me like they control Jay-Z. I said, dude, you need to control you. You a billionaire now, cut it out. And he lost all this stuff, So that's what we talking about. Then I went to school with a dude that had control of the music industry, bright and early. I ain't got to say his name, but he in a whole lot of trouble now because he had a lot of control over people that wanted to be in the industry. And he was like, do this, do that. So he was having just a ball. And now it's all coming back. Now he's like, now I'm out of control, right? And everybody's trying to but that's what happens when you have success too early. Boy, you can end up with this dominating power thing that gets way out of hand. You know what I mean? And so that's what I have with a lot of these characters where, you know, the director I have in that, he don't even have to say much. He's not a dominating dude, but John Singleton, I interviewed him once, and he gave me this, you know, this whole breakdown on when he blew up in Hollywood. He said, Omar, and we were both in our early 20s. Both of us is young. You know, I was writing books at 23, his first movie at 24, so we both successful as young dudes. And I interviewed him, we were still in our 20s, and he said, Omar, once I start making films, you know I'm in California, and they got all these California girls and people that come out here to be in movies, and he said, I had all these women asking me, what do I need to do to be in your movie? And when he said that, you know, I'm a straight male, so I'm like, oh, we already know where that's going, you know what I mean, John? And John was like, I got into a whole lot of trouble with girls asking me, what do I need to do to be in your movie? And you know, he's a young dude, so I'm telling you, when you young like that and have power, Russell Simmons. You know, a lot of people didn't see that. Now we older, we saw the movie, that whole Crush Grooving or whatever, and that whole story was about Russell Simmons. He was doing it big at a young age. And then he ended up in a lot of power and a lot of control, and he was out of control. And he left the whole daggone country when they came after him. So yeah, man, it happens to a lot of people. So when I write that book, oh, this is not fiction. This is real stuff for a whole lot of people. When I read interviews about Jennifer Lopez and her whole set thing. I need warm milk. If it's not warm, you're gonna take it back. You know, so you imagine being an assistant for a person that's like, what pimps, and you're like, yo, you got way above, and a whole lot of, Beyonce, she doesn't even talk to the media, but we all know she controls everything, and then if she's not in control, all her Beyonce bees will let you know, we got her back. I'm like, what the hell is going, if you say anything bad about Beyonce, she don't even have to say anything. She like, bees, and you should say about it, it's crazy. So I'm like, dude, this ain't no fictional book like that. We got a whole lot of that going on. So I start the book with the first female rapper, right? I can give y'all some of the stuff, and she jumped right out there. I don't want no boyfriend, no manager, no label, because I don't want nobody telling me what to do. And that's how these young rappers are now. And they push the sexuality to another level because they want that money. So it's like, as long as I'm pushing my own sexuality and while somebody else doing it, then Megan Thee Stallion can push it. If Cardi B can push it, then Ice Spice, and they'll push it as long as they're doing it. I'm in control now of how far I'm going to push it to get my money. You see what I'm talking about? You not pushing me, I'm pushing me. So this is the new era. Women have more control now. So I got that issue in there. Then we got the white male in the book who's, you know, the venture capitalist. White men are not in control like they used to be. And right now, Donald Trump is trying his hardest to figure out how he can jump back in control. And I'm like, he really thinks he's going to win the presidency again? Like, we better not. You better not. But that's what happens, and I got all that in that book, man, with all these different characters. So I'm going into detail about more of the characters, but you don't know what's going to happen with them. So I can tell you who they are, but once you get in the book, you're like, oh. Then you can start recognizing stuff in real life, like, you know what? That's the thing you need to deal with, because you're going to get a little out of hand, and you're going to get yourself in trouble. And then it's also interpersonal relationships, because, again, you can't control anybody but yourself. And I had to learn that, right? Because I'm writing books, I get to control everything in the book. I can make the character do, and sometimes I don't do that, because if the character says it, then you allow that, it's creative process, you allow the character to do what they want to do. But once I step out that book, and I say, hey, meet me at the club, I ain't going to the club, I don't want to go to the club. Okay. Meet me at the movies, I ain't going to the movies, I don't like movies. Okay. I got no control over what you want to do or what you like. So now, depending on how bad I want that control, it can really, you know what I mean, stress me out, which is what's going on there. The more you want it, the more you want to control it, the more it can stress you out when you don't get it. And so in Lion King, you got to let it go, because if you don't let it go, it's going to stress you out. And so everybody in this book is stressed out, so we can catch that in our own lives and say, hey, what are my control issues? What are my hangups? What are my psychoses? Because we all have them. We all have them. Some got little ones, some got big ones. You know, then we got to admit to it and deal with it. Right on.
So once people do get a chance to actually dig into this, how do you want them to engage with control?
How do you want them
to engage with it? Yeah, what do you want them to take away?
With them looking at it, just being able to pick it out and point to it and say, wow, that's an issue. Because we're all trying to control each other now. You know, even men and women, you know what I mean? Like, men had a lot more control. If you worked and you paid the bills, you can come home, and back in the day, you could pretty much dictate the terms. Now, the woman has everything in the house, so when she ain't there, you dictate. So it's the same thing. The mother controls the whole house until dad comes home, then she allows him. Now, mother's like, you ain't gonna control that when you come home. I got my own body. So now the guy like, so what am I supposed to do now? Like, I'm supposed to, like, what? So now, we're going back to that Lions King. Okay, now this is funny. When you watch the Animal Kingdom, I can tell you right now, if you watch real lions right now, the female does all the work. They ain't running around. But let me tell you, when that male lion come out with the dude is the most vicious dude, because the whole mane is shaking and he comes scatting the females away. And then if they got a battle with the hyenas, the male, when he comes, dude, so you get that like, good God. Right now, when you leave this room, go to Animal Planet and watch how ferocious when that male lion it's crazy. It's comical, but this is real life. So now if you take that away from men, they're like, okay, I got no more what am I going to do with these muscles? So now it's an awkward space even for men. So, I'm talking about in my next book, men have started leaving the country now, going down to Panama and Colombia and Peru and Dominican, yeah, and they start, Omar, the women down here, man, you gotta come down here, they treat you different, man. And then the women in America, like, oh, you copped out, went down there with them weak women. But if you talk to Caribbean women, the Spanish women, they not looking at themselves as weak. They like, we got a different perspective. And y'all up there trying to control y'all men. We don't do that. We let the man be the man like they supposed to be. That's why y'all having all these conflicts with your men, because you ain't supposed to control a man. You supposed to let him be a man, right? And so now we looking at it like, no, he can't tell me this can't. And women are like, that's why you ain't got no man. That's why you got problems with your men. And that's why when they come down here to us, they feel good, and they come home to you with a smile on their face, and you don't know why. So I'm working on that book for next year.
That is lively conversation there. Bring me back for that one. I want to discuss that one. So now we are going to open it up for your questions. So what questions do you have?
Oh, now you're gonna have to take the mic around. So
Yes.
nice and loud. Take it around like Oprah and all that.
Okay, like Bannon.
Y'all, I got bad ears now.
Anybody have a question? You can raise your hand. Oh,
Yeah.
one here.
Hi. I was wondering, are there any plans for you to write for young adults as opposed to just adults?
You talking about like a television show?
No, like published books that are meant for like
children's books?
middle school students or high school students.
I have a children's book called 12 Brown Boys, and that's out and selling already. It came out with Just Us Books out of New Jersey, and then Scholastic picked it up. And I learned why it was so frustrating with children's books. A lot of parents don't buy children's books. We may start off with the Cat in the Hat, the Dr. Seuss, the Berenstain Bears, but then after that, a lot of parents start allowing their children to rent books from the library in the school systems. So what happened was when I was trying to shop books to publishers, they're looking at me like, we shop our books to the school system and to the libraries, not the parents, because we don't trust parents. And I was like, what's going on with that? So I forced that book out there, found me a black publisher, Just Us Books, put the book out. My first event was at the Charlotte Literary Festival, CLF, where I live in Charlotte. And I had my new book, and I was at the festival, and it had just come out the box. I went down there to sell my books, and I saw a black mother with a 9-year-old son. And I'm going after boys because they don't like to read. They think it's girl stuff. They think it's sissy stuff. Now, you guys have met me. Ain't nothing girly. You know what I mean? I'm a full-blooded football playing boxing Philadelphia. But I love information and stories, so I'm going to read stuff. But boys have this idea, particularly with fiction. And I have to always defend fiction by saying, look, it's the creative stuff. This library is created. My jacket is created. My shoes are created. So when black men say I don't like fiction, that's like saying I don't like to create anything. Therefore, you're going to be a follower forever. You're following other people that create. So it's the most nonsensical thing. I'm creating all the time, and you're telling me you're not going to read creativity. You're going to read nonfiction, which is just reporting what somebody else did. Right? So with the children's books, when I put that book out, going back to my story, she had a 9-year-old son, And so as soon as I saw her and her son, I got excited. I said, here's my first sale. She got a 9-year-old boy. I wrote it for her, right? And she had a girlfriend with her. They're both like 35, right? So when she came over with her son, I was excited and happy, and I gave her the spill. I wrote this book. I got 2 younger brothers. I got 2 sons. I played football. Football is the biggest locker room because they got the most players. So I've been in the big locker room. I played football my whole life from like 8 to like 17. So I'm like, I've been around boys. I know what they like to read, you know. And the mom listened to my whole spill, and she said, Omar, I understand what you're trying to do, but I'm not going to buy that book. Now, of course, it's a children's book. It's $10. I said, no, and you're in a literary festival. That's what we're there to do. But let me finish the spill. So she said, Omar, I understand what you're trying to do, but my son don't like to read, so I'm not going to buy that book. Now I'm sitting there, she's saying this in front of her son. So I'm like, I don't want to disrespect her because she's a mom. So I'm like, okay. I said, ma'am, I'm a brown boy. I grew up in Philadelphia, but trust me, I got 2 sons, and I'm a coach for my sons' basketball, football. You know, I'm one of them pads. I'm around brown boys all day, every day. Like, trust me. And she was like, no, I'm not going to. And her girlfriend's listening to the whole thing, like sitting there, because she don't have her son with her. So then I tried to go another route. I said, ma'am, how old is your son? She said, he's 9. I said, you're letting your son dictate what he's going to do at 9 years old? I tried to go that route. Like, how dare you? Because my sons don't dictate nothing. You already know. Like, I was raised by a man, and I exude that. So my sons already know. So I tried to go the sneaky route, right? You know, and she shot that down. Omar, finally, the girlfriend dug in her purse, pulled out $10, gave me the $10, said, Omar, sign that book for her son. Because she understands this is about, are you out of you allowing your son, and we had a literary festival. Boy read the book, had a football player in the book. He played football, quarterback. The boy in the book had the same number 9, as the boy. The boy fell in love with the book. Mom emailed me, oh, my son loved the book. But if her girlfriend wasn't there to listen to me, pouring my heart out to her for 10 minutes for a $10 book at a literary festival. And so that is what publishers are dealing with. And I have to say, and it happened again. Fly girl, I'm at Walmart. A teenage girl, Mom, I want this book. I ain't buying that book. Now you in Walmart, you ain't getting nothing for free. So now I'm looking at that like you in Walmart. Now, we gotta buy food, we gotta buy clothes. And I'm like, it's food and clothes for your brain to read. But we don't understand that. So now the daughter's like, this was years ago in Chicago's Walmart, and I just watched the whole thing. Now you gonna pay for that with your own. But the mom will buy food, clothes, hair rollers, video games. But this little book in Walmart, and that's when Fly Girl was an $8 book. $10 book in Walmart, she gonna tell her daughter, I ain't buying that book with attitude. You know how I ain't buying that book. And I didn't say nothing. I was like, okay, Mom. But that's what they deal with, the publishers. So it's very hard. And once I experienced that, I was like, wow. So when Harry Potter came out, Scholastic was jumping for joy that kids had a book, 700 pages each. That book was unbelievable that kids were buying and telling their parents to buy, and the school system couldn't vouch for that book because they had warlocks and goblins. So the school system was like, we can't have that in here. But the libraries were able to have it. So the kids, but they were buying them books. Harry Potter was selling in droves. But they didn't have that many books like Harry. So you got to find books that work, and we got to buy them. So it's very hard. That 12, when the kids read it, they love it. But I got to get the parents, because the kids, they don't have the money to buy it. We got to get us to buy them. And so you already know what that battle is. Scholastic has had that battle, and I didn't know until that incident. I was like, wow, this is what they're dealing with our people. So we say we need the books, but you got to put your money where your mouth is. Right on.
Hi. First of all, Fly Girl was one of the best books that I've ever read, and you had me in trouble with my mom with that book. That was the one that she hid from me. So, my mom was always pushed us to be an avid reader. I'm a teacher now, so it definitely worked out in our favor. One of the things I want to say is that Fly Girl definitely inspired me to want to write a book, so I'm in the process of writing a book. And one of the things that I want to ask is, what's your process to keep writing? Like, sometimes I find myself being a little splotchy with my writing. Like sometimes I feel like this is my tone, then next day I feel like, oh, I want to start over because I want to write this. So how do you kind of keep your flow?
Yeah, it's crazy, but Will Smith had a whole movie called Focus. And Jay-Z talks about it all the time. Focus, man, focus. He always, but I can tune everything out and zero in. But sometimes that can be negative because people trying to get your attention. I got a character in the book like that. And I'm like, hey, not right now, not right now. I got to focus on what I'm doing. So I lock myself in, hey, I'm not doing that right now. I got to focus on people that can't, you get distracted easy. It's hard because you got to focus in on finishing what you started. And I can do that all the time. So that's what writers, we understand, creative people in general. And musicians do a lot of, remember we used to have them albums where they would have like the skits where, hurry up and finish the album. Are you going to finish the album? So now you got a creative person that's taking more time, and you got the business people that's like, come on with it. But you're like, hey man, I'm focused, but I got to let the creative process be the creative. So some people take longer than others. But I'm a journalist. So in journalism, if the article is due for tomorrow morning, guess who's going to be up all night getting that article ready? So I'm in a trade where we ain't got a lot of time. It's deadline, 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 deadline. When you work with the news, we want that news turned over immediately. So we got the fastest. So again, it's the psychology, the temperament. My temperament is right now. My son said that. I got a younger son, and he was like, Dad, like everybody don't move with that right now thing that you do, right? They don't. So every time I ask somebody to do something, what's your deadline? Because they're going to wait till the night before to do it, right? So I don't even like giving people a deadline, because if your deadline is like next week, they ain't going to start till like Sunday, right? So I'm like, nah, so I always say, the deadline is 2 days. I always, you know what I mean? Because it's the focus. You're not going to focus on my thing because it's not urgent for you. I'm a very urgent person. Everything I do is urgency. So you get around people like that and they're urgent, and that's another control issue. Urgent people. I want it right now. Let's do it right now. Let's do it right now. And they seem to be more pushy, right? So Terry McMillan has an urgent attitude. If you do something slow and anything, and it comes out of her pores. Terry, there's no lying in Terry. You can tell when she don't like you. She gonna say it. You can see it in her body language. And so with artistic people, honesty is big. I wrote a book called Just Say No about a musician. And he said, if I can't be myself, then I can't. If you can't do that, so with you, it's like you got to do it. You got to go ahead and get in there, block everybody. Everybody can't do that. So everybody can't be a writer. At the end of the day, I was trying to teach everybody, but you have to be able to finish what you start. And that may be an anal process. Look, girl, ain't no day going out, ain't no going. Yeah, I had to do that a lot. Where I'm not going to the movies, I'm not going out, I got to finish this book. You have to be able to do that. And I can't coach you for that. At the end of the day, you got to finish that book. Now, when you have it outlined, you can finish it easier because you know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, that's going to make it harder to finish. So you got to focus on the outline and the ending. I always have the beginning and the ending, then you can work out the middle. But if you know where you're going, now you're better at figuring out how to complete it, to push yourself to get to that ending. But if you don't have an ending, you can be running around in circles, and then you get bored with running around in circles because you ain't going nowhere. So then you get bored with it and you don't do it anymore. So outlines is just boy meets girl, girl likes boy falls out. It's just the development of the story. Where does it end? So you have to do that. You know where the story's going. Just jot that down so when you're writing, you know where you're going. Okay, it's not a whole detailed outline, but have a point that says this is where the story's going next, so you know what to focus on.
I love that. Thanks so much. And y'all, just to let y'all know, the kids love graphic novels. So if you can get them into a book, if you want to put a book with graphic novels in front of their face, they'll
graphic. You're right. Comic books too.
Yes,
comic books.
One more question.
It's Kalisha. Gotcha.
Yes. Okay. All right, so I'm Kalisha.
Okay, you got it. Thanks.
And so you're one of my motivators and inspirations
Thank
for
you.
becoming an author. So
Thank you.
Put that out there, right? And that's years ago. So
Thank you.
and so with that portion here, I have an accountability partner as well.
Okay.
So my question is, I know dealing with money in film is very hard. So I know money in film is a hard thing. However, have you ever thought about going the stage play route? I'm a playwright.
To do what? I thought about.
Have you ever thought about going the stage play route versus film? I know it's a lot in that.
Right.
But you can control it a little more with the money because it's your money funneling.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
Right. I got invited to do stage plays, and they tell you how much they pay the actor, and then the director, and then the promoter, and they told me I could sell books at the event. And I'm like, wait a minute, you gonna do a stage play on my book? Everybody else getting paid, and I can sell books at the event? And I'm like, that don't benefit me. I'm gonna sell books at the event anyway. That's not something extra. If I'm at the event and it's based on my book, we gonna sell books. That's not something extra, but you gonna pay me to do any inaction of my book. But that's not how stage plays are set up. So you gotta understand how Tyler Perry ended up in so much control, where he's the director, he's the producer, he gotta get the money. Yeah, so I'm not into stage plays like that, but you have to be. So what happens is with stage play people, they become in the middle of it all. And that's where Tyler Perry was. And when somebody didn't show up, he did the female Medea character. I read about that. Somebody didn't show up, then he said the show must go on. He put the outfit on, people laughed. He was like, hey, I'm on something here. And he kept doing it. But yeah, the stage play, it's a different animal. And you gotta understand, if you don't have promotion and you trying to fill out the seats 3-4 nights in a row, that's a lot of work. And they got promoters, and then they got to negotiate. Here you go again, out of control with stars, because then they grabbing all these stars because you want somebody to come. Well, who's in it? Well, who's in it? And so then it got to the point where the people who were stage play people were like, why you keep grabbing these movie stars? Because they can get the people. But the movie stars wasn't taken as seriously as a stage play. So people was talking about that. You got Morris Chestnut, because he's a movie star, but he didn't take it as seriously as my guy would have. So he didn't give his all, give it about a 4 instead of an 8. Even though it's Morris Chestnut, but you had to play Morris Chestnut because he wants movie money. So I had all them conversations, and I wasn't really a stage play guy. I'm a movie guy. I like the movies. The stage plays is over dramatic. You know, it really is. Oh, mama, you know, and I'm like, when you read my books, I don't try to be over. I don't try to, but that's the stage play thing. That's the form of that. So a lot of that is, I'm not, and then I'm like, hey, tone, even me, like, not tone it down, man. Like, you know, so that stage play thing, that is a venue, but that's not that venue for me, where it's like, you know, I'd rather be in theaters where you relaxed and watching in silence, you know what I mean, and watching the joint, where I already got it controlled on the stage. I don't have to worry about people messing up their lines every night, or somebody didn't make it to the show, because that's what happened with Tyler Perry. He ended up becoming a gold mine when somebody didn't make it to the show, and he had to put the woman's outfit on. That became a gold mine for him. So it's like God blessed him with that situation, but it could be very stressful if that person didn't show up and he didn't do that. So yeah, the stage players, I get it, but yeah, I would get involved with you in a stage play if you're going to pay me like you want to, you know what I mean?
Pay everybody.
Yeah.
Pay everybody.
You're not saying, okay.
So it doesn't matter. And I don't do all of the celebrity thing because there are more hungry people out there that I can deal with on a better level than a celebrity. So I don't care about the celebrity presence.
Right.
I'm my own celebrity.
Right. Right. But that's what stage play, most stage play people, they have to do all of it to make sure they get as much as they can get from it. And so, again, that becomes control people. And I know plenty of it. There's another guy out of Houston, I forget his name, but all the stage play, I got guys in Philly. They control everything. Because what'll happen is, if you write a stage play the first time, and you see how everybody else getting paid, when you write that next one, you're like, no, I'm going to be in it. I'm picking my own people. Because you see how it, and so I'm like, unless I'm directing and producing and I got my own money, people like Tyler Perry, it doesn't benefit the writer. It really doesn't, because they're not coming for the writer. This ain't August Wilson back in the day in Pittsburgh. They don't benefit the writer. It's the actors in it that it benefits the most. And then you have to have this dramatic, over-the-top title and everything. So yeah, I'm more into, you know, the more executable films than the dramatic stage play. I go to them every now and then, but I like films way more than stage plays. Right on.
Give a round of applause. Thank you so much. Can we get you to pick a winner for our giveaway?
Oh, you didn't put yours in? Sego Gomez? Gomes? Okay. Yep.
Thank you all so much for coming. Please, thank you all for supporting the library. Coming out to events like this allows us to do more. Thank you for coming out, Omar. Thank you, Dr. Bradford, for coming out. We have a bookseller that you are more than welcome to support as well. In addition to supporting the library, you can support the bookseller who has not only Omar Tyree's book, but also Dr. Joy's book as well. So yeah, please browse there, and we will be ready to have Omar sign. And Dr. Joy, of course, can sign her book as well. So yeah, thank you so much for coming, and you can line up on this side to get ready for the book signing.
Wall,